This is Goku-san DBZ, and today I am continuing on, of course, with my top 12 lists fantasy theme month. Why top 12? Because I like to go 2 steps beyond other YouTubers, especially Watch Mojo. Anywho, let's get ready with today's vlog with the top Final Fantasy games. Coming in at number 12, Final Fantasy 3, which was a remake of the original Final Fantasy 3, which was only released domestically in Japan on the, of course, Super Famicom, or aka Super Nintendo of Japan. Now, it was only re-released in a redone version more recent years on the Nintendo DS, and of course also on Android app market and the Apple app market. But it's a good game. I got it when it was on sale Christmas time 2 years back on Android market. Really good game. Check it out. Coming in at number 11, Final Fantasy 13, which was released, of course, on the Xbox 360 and the PS3. And some people, it's kind of really across. Some people like 13 and some people like 13.2 more. Just depends on who you ask. But sales-wise, the original 13 did the best in sales, which is why it's up here. Coming in at number 10, Final Fantasy Dissidia 012, which is the second of the 2 fighting games of the Final Fantasy series, Dissidia. It's a really good game. It was, of course, the first and the second one. Both were only released on the PSP back several years ago. It's a pretty fun game. Sort of like a Final Fantasy fighting game, I guess you could say. It's really interesting. I suggest to check it out if you get the opportunity to play it. Coming in at number 9, Final Fantasy 4. Or Final Fantasy 2 on the Super Nintendo. But it's actually Final Fantasy 4. If you want to play it, a lot of people get the DS version, or you can get on like PS1 double pack with Chrono Trigger, which is a good deal. But I recommend, of course, the PSP, the complete Years collection, which includes the After Years with it and stuff. It's really good. If you've never played any of the older school games, I highly recommend Final Fantasy IV. Coming in at number 8, Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, which is, of course, a prequel to Final Fantasy VII. So you learn more the origins of, like, Sephiroth. And you, instead of playing with Cloud, you play with who Cloud, of course, somehow ends up with memories of, and of course that is Zack. It's a really solid game. Gameplay-wise, kind of remind you a little bit more of like Kingdom Hearts. It doesn't use the turn-based combat system. You can more move around freely in battle. Dodge rolls and things like that. It's a really good game, though. It's really fun. Coming in at number 7 for Xbox One and for PS4 if you want the English HD, or get the original on import on PSP. Final Fantasy Type 0 HD. Really fun game, and it doesn't use the turn-based combat system either. But it's really fun. Sort of like, gameplay-wise, sort of reminds you of like Monster Hunter meets Kingdom Hearts in a way. Anyways, coming in at number 6, Final Fantasy 8, of course, which came out on the PSX or PS1, which is personally my favorite Final Fantasy game period of all time. It's the first game I actually played was Final Fantasy VII, but Final Fantasy VIII was the one I came to really love, even though it's not very well liked by a lot of North American or Western audiences. It's more just the Japanese who appreciate that game, sadly. One of the best soundtracks of any game in the franchise. Coming in at number 5, Final Fantasy Tactics, which of course was released originally on the PSX, PS1, then they redid War of the Lions Tactics on the PSP, of course, later on, years later. Really good game. Solid, good gameplay. Perhaps has the best technical combat system, I think, in all the games in the franchise. It's perhaps the best well put together game, but it just depends on who you ask, of course. Coming in at number 4, Final Fantasy X, which of course was released on the PS2, and then HD version with 10.10.2, which of course a lot of us rather not remember 10.2, of course. 10 was a very solid game, was the first game in the Final Fantasy franchise with full audio. When you talk to people, of course, in the cinematics and stuff, you have voice acting. The first game in the franchise that actually did that. With Titus, of course, and you had Sin, which of course ended up devouring his father, Jet. And we were introduced to something completely different than we were used to in the Final Fantasy franchise. And of course that being obviously the metal theme in that Sin battle when you're fighting against him, hearing and jamming out to black mages. And of course audio done by Till Lindemann of Rammstein. Rammstein. Anyways, coming in at number 3. Coming in at number 3, Final Fantasy IX, which of course was released on the original PlayStation, PSX. It is one of the other best, personally, is I think one of the 3 best games in the series. Soundtracks, along with Final Fantasy VIII, I think Final Fantasy IX is perhaps the second best soundtrack-wise. Of newer games, my favorite is Type 0 on the soundtrack, because I just enjoy the opera music and stuff, and some mixing of rock music with opera classical. I just love that kind of stuff. But yes, Final Fantasy IX came in at 3rd. Coming in at number 2. Coming in at number 2. The best-selling game of the franchise, with almost 12 million copies, second best-selling game on the original PlayStation. Final Fantasy VII, which has the most overrated villain, I think, in the entire franchise. Sephiroth, of course. It really depends on who you ask, though. But he is kind of a mama's boy. He lives in his mother's basement, relies on his mother to do his fighting for him. That's basically Sephiroth, more or less, except in Kingdom Hearts where they made him badass. Here's some honorable mentions. Kingdom of Final Fantasy XII, Final Fantasy I, Final Fantasy II, Final Fantasy The Four Heroes of Light, Final Fantasy 13-2, Final Fantasy, or should I say, here's 2 dishonorable mentions now. Final Fantasy X-2, Final Fantasy Lightning Returns 13, or Final Fantasy 13-3. And those are my honorable and dishonorable mentions now. Number 1 was originally named Final Fantasy III on the Super Nintendo, but its real number, of course, when it was released in 1994, was Final Fantasy VI. Now, Of villains, yes, some people may say this villain is also overrated like Sephiroth, but at least he wasn't a wimp like Sephiroth. He was a psychopath, the Joker of the Final Fantasy universe, if you will. So obviously he's a clown of sorts, and that being Kefka. Kefka is without a doubt one of the two biggest juggernaut bosses in the franchise. Most people, of course, debate who was better, Kefka or Sephiroth. I will admit I like Sephiroth, but I like more the Kingdom Hearts version of Sephiroth, not the Final Fantasy version of him, though he does have the most epic theme music of any boss ever, period. And anyways, I'll get ready to wrap up this vlog. I hope you liked the top 12 Final Fantasy games, and next Sunday will be the last top 12 fantasy themed countdown for fantasy themed month of May, and that will be the top 12 fantasy themed video games. It won't matter what genre the game is. It could be a fine game, an RPG, an MMO. It doesn't matter. As long as the predominant theme in the game is fantasy, magic, dragons, medieval stuff, basically, then it qualifies. So, don't expect it to strictly only be RPGs. Just to let you know. It's going to be based overall picture, fantasy theme. But I hope you liked this vlog, and I hope to see you next time here in YouTube land. As always, this is Goku-san DBZ. And, of course, please subscribe and let other people know about my channel. And you can also follow me on Twitter, which is, of course, hashtag Goku-san DBZ. So, give me suggestions on Twitter or on YouTube here. Or, I'm also thinking about in the future actually setting up a Twitch account, possibly, on Xbox Live. And if you're a Xbox gamer, send me a friend's request, of course, to Goku-san DBZ on Xbox One. Or also on PSN Network as well. I'm also Goku-san DBZ on there, so anyways. See you all next time, YouTube land.